Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man wala. Amma ba'd. We're going to do a short series on divorce and the reasons for divorce in the community. This is a short series, then we'll have 1 week break, and then inshallah azza wa jalla next week, next school term, we'll start with another series inshallah. The reason this topic was chosen is because unfortunately it happens a lot in the community. It's unfortunate that now every second person who just got married is just getting divorced. And people that you know that were married for 10, 15 years, out of nowhere they got divorced. And something which was very rare before, people in their 50s, 60s also, subhanAllah, getting divorced. So this is something that we need to look at as a community. Why? Why is this happening? Why are people getting divorced so easily? Why is there such a high rate of divorce? Not just in Australia, but all around the world. Inshallah, what we discuss will be based on actual experience in the community. Whether it is from myself or other people that deal with divorce day in, day out. And this is inshallah something that many of you will come across in your life in terms of people that have been divorced, but in terms of why they get divorced, normally people pay attention to. And this is very important. If you're not married, for when you do get married, and if you are married, inshallah azza wa jalla, to stay married. We'll give some introductory points inshallah, and then we'll get into some of the reasons for the divorce. Number one, divorce is not bad in and of itself. Divorce is not haram. Nor is divorce necessarily makruh. Divorce could take any of the Islamic rulings. Divorce could be an obligation, or divorce could be preferred, or divorce could be allowed, or divorce could be disliked, or divorce could be at times haram. It takes all of the rulings. So each situation is different. Certain people culturally, they have understandings of divorce which are un-Islamic. In some cultures, they think divorce is haram. So no matter how bad the marriage is, they'll stay together. Why? Because they think it's haram. And so both of them live a very, very, very bad life, which leads to major sins on both sides. Or it leads to the children hating their parents because there's no interaction, or they're always angry, or they're always fighting and swearing and hitting each other, etc., etc., etc. This causes major consequences for them in this dunya, and if haram also in the hereafter. So we don't want to have that extreme. Nor do we want to have an understanding of divorce that wallah, divorce is the best thing, which is a new culture that is emerging, where people are getting divorced and they're praising divorce and they're promoting divorce, and any little issue between husband and wife, they're saying go get divorced as if it's an obligation. And he sabiqu, as Allah says, hasten, rush to Jannah. They're saying hasten and rush to divorce. And we don't want any of these extremes. What we want in terms of divorce is, if divorce is that which is a better option for one or two of the parties, their problems are, they're not reconcilable, khalas, then divorce is the best thing, no problem. If divorce Islamically is the best thing in that case, then let them get divorced, no problem, get divorced properly. Give each person their rights, they speak about each other. If the kids are there, both of you make sure that you do the best to look after the kids, etc., etc., etc. If divorce is the option. But for us to act as if divorce is absolutely haram, this is a problem. Or for us to act like, which is a new culture, divorce is the best thing in the world, that's also a problem. We take the Islamic path, which divorce is an option. And when is that option taken, or when should it be taken? It should be taken when Islamically it is the best thing for all parties, or at least one of the parties involved. And we'll explain inshallah azza wa jalla in more detail as the lesson in the series goes on. Regarding divorce, some people, they mention some weak ahadith regarding divorce, like in أبغض الحلال عند الله الطلاق, or some narrations similar to this that they attribute to the Prophet ﷺ, that the most hated of halal to Allah is divorce. And these ahadith are weak and or fabricated, many of them. Regarding divorce, there are, yes, authentic ahadith that are reported from the Prophet ﷺ about divorce. We're not going to get into it because we're not going to get into the fiqh of divorce. But what we do want to speak about a little bit is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that in summary means the most beloved, or from the most beloved acts of shaitan is when people get divorced. Okay, when shaitan sits and he asks his workers, what did you do today, what did you do today? And one of them says that he separated between a husband and wife, and he brings him closer. He brings him closer. Even that, it's not that divorce is bad in and of itself. Is divorce haram in and of itself? No. But why does shaitan love divorce so much? Because of the consequences that come from divorce. Because of the consequences that come from divorce. Yani a husband and wife, if they want to be intimate, they want to naturally fulfill this natural desire of theirs to be intimate, they do it with each other to avoid the haram, and they get hasanat for it. When they're divorced, what ends up happening? You see fitna all over the place. The man no longer has the halal means to fulfill his desires, nor does the female. And so you see zina become very, very, very widespread. If you look at the children that come from divorce, okay, or that are unfortunately raised in an environment where it was a bad divorce, you see a lot of the time the child gets raised without the father being present, or the child gets neglected. A lot of the time, not all the time, a lot of the time. Where, for example, the mother gets remarried and the father, the new husband, is very bad towards the children. Or the mother naturally, she's looking after her husband, and so she doesn't have as much time for the emotional needs of her children from a previous marriage. Or sometimes the mother resents the children because they're from her ex-husband, etc., etc., etc. So what ends up happening to the children a lot of time from divorce? They feel neglected emotionally. So they look for other ways to find those emotional needs that they have to be fulfilled, and a lot of time that involves haram. Whether it is through the girls seeking attention from the opposite gender, and through haram relationships, or it is boys that want to join other groups and gangs and they don't have that guide in their life, so they take bad examples and role models and they end up living a life of haram. It just ends up bad on bad. Okay, sometimes it's the child resenting both of his parents, because the dad talks about the mom and the mom talks about the dad, and so this child who's growing up, who's meant to love his mom and love his dad, ends up being told his whole life, she's bad, he's bad, she's bad, he's bad, and he hates both of them. So he goes up with personal struggles. That how do I go about my emotions? I don't know what to feel. He becomes dead inside. And that affects him later on with his own marriage and with his own children. So divorce is not a pretty thing. Divorce is not the best of things. That's why even if a person, it was Islamically appropriate to get divorced, he makes sure he goes about it the best possible way, which is an Islamic way. You and her, you can't get along, khalas, no problem. Even Allah says, don't forget the virtue, the goodness between you both. Even if you get divorced. Okay, you and her, you don't get along, no problem. Anti talib, you're divorced, you give her haqq. If she has any haqq with you, she gives you your haqq. In terms of the children, you give each other their rights, etc., etc., etc. You don't need to speak bad about her, she doesn't need to speak bad about you. You move on with your lives. Your families don't need to hate each other and become mortal enemies. It's not Islamic. Two people can't get along, no problem. Assalamu alaikum, we get our separate ways. As the Imam recited in the Salat, leave them with goodness. If you to leave them with goodness. No problem. You can't reconcile the issues, leave with goodness. So the hadith, a lot of them they're weak regarding it. There are many authentic narrations regarding divorce. The one that we wanted to speak about a little bit was the one about shaitan loving divorce. Not again necessarily because of the divorce, but because of the consequences that happen from divorce. It being such a big problem in the community means that we need to talk about these topics. Unfortunately, many people when they talk about marriage, they talk about the fiqh of marriage, sometimes what to look for in a spouse, the rights of the husband, the rights of the wife, but many a time they don't talk about the divorce and what leads to divorce for people to stay away from. And even some people jokingly, they say, oh, alhamdulillah, I'm not married, so I don't need to come to this lesson. Relax, you're the one that needs to come. Okay, because as we will see from today's point, this is talking about divorce that happens for consequences for things that people do before marriage. And before they even get married, there's things that they do to set themselves up for failure. And so these are talks not just for a person who's married. It comes for parents who want their children to get married, inshallah. It comes from a person, maybe he's never going to get married in his wife, but so he can advise others. My father-in-law, rahmatullah alayh, he advised me one advice in terms of marriage, amongst many, but one that stuck out the most was, don't leave divorce on the tip of your tongue. When you get angry, don't think, well, divorce is the first option. If a person needs to get divorced, they need to get divorced, no problem. But don't leave on the tip of your tongue, wallah, I'll divorce you, wallah, I'll divorce you, wallah, I'll divorce you, so that one day you get angry, you have a fight with her, you're divorced. Don't leave on the tip of your tongue. If it gets to that, it gets to that, no problem. But don't leave on the tip of your tongue. So all the brothers that get married now on their walima day or when they're actually going to live together, this is my advice for them. I tell them, listen, everyone's going to advise you of a million things. Take this advice. So many brothers, whether it's months or years later, they send me a message, Jazakallah khairan, that was the best piece of advice I got. Why? Because of all the issues that we're going to mention, a lot of people, their first reaction is let it go. Your car stuff's up, get rid of it. Your TV stuff's up, get rid of it. Your fridge stuff's up, get rid of it. Everything, get rid of. Same thing, you and your wife, the relationship, it's not going as you thought it was going to go before marriage. What's a lot of the time the first reaction? Get rid of it as well. Over something so petty or so stupid. So when a person has that in their mind, Yani Amin, Abdul Rahman, other brothers that are getting married now, tabarakallah, and for those that are married or going to get married, inshallah, keep this in the back of your mind to not keep divorce on the tip of your tongue. Because you don't want over the most petty or stupid of issues for you guys to accidentally slip it out and there's no going back. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned 3 things. There's them being serious is serious and them joking around is serious. Marriage, divorce, and the freeing of a slave. You say your divorce is not, wallah, I was joking with my wife. No, it happened. It fell because it's something that you don't joke around about. So you be very, very, very careful. We're getting to, after that small introduction, some of the points, and they're not necessarily in any particular order, but we'll set them out, inshallah azza wa jalla. Today we'll focus on some of the points. These are not all, there are many reasons, but some of the major points that cause or lead up to or are reason for divorce later on, and these are things that happen even before marriage. Okay, before marriage, especially in the upbringing of the children. Number 1, not setting a good example for marriage as parents. This is a big issue. So it's got nothing even to do with the person getting married, the boy or the girl. It has to do with the parents. If you're a parent, be very careful not to set your child up for failure. If you give your children a very bad example of what marriage is and what marriage is like, this is going to affect them later on. You, with your senses, consciously or not, you are picking up everything around you. You're learning from everything around you. What do we say from the dangers of any movies and TV shows is that subliminally you're being affected. Even though you know what's wrong, but subliminally you're being affected. So when it comes time for you to actually enact what's there, or a situation happens where you're in the same situation as that movie, you say the same thing. You do the same thing. For example, everyone watches Hollywood movies. Call 911, call 911. We've been in situations where a person, something happened, and instead of saying call 000, they say call 911. Not because they think that they're living in America, but because that's what they've watched their whole life and they're stuck with it. So when a situation happened, the automatic response that came out for them was call 911. If you are watching as a child, your parents always fighting, to you, you don't know how to have a conversation with your spouse. If the dad bashes the mom, you don't know how to have a good relationship with your wife. You don't know how to solve problems. If the father never communicates with the wife, the child sees that. So when the children get older, what ends up happening? These are things that are instilled in them. So if you're a parent, be very, very, very careful not to instill the wrong things in your children, both for your sons and for your daughters. We see a big problem with this as with boys, that they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to deal with issues, they don't know how to do any of that. They're very, very, very aggressive, they're very cold. And how does that set them up for divorce on top of marriage issues? Maybe the older generation, they were much more patient when it comes to dealing with the problems of their husband, which is a good thing, it's a praiseworthy thing. They knew how to deal with the problems of their husband. But the new generation, unfortunately, they don't think about dealing with problems anymore. They're from that new culture, which is get divorced straight away. And because one person got divorced, she promotes, oh Allah, it's a good thing, yalla, get divorced as well. And haram, they all live unhappy lives the majority of the time in the future. But divorce him, don't do it, divorce him. Get khula, whatever it may be. So maybe your wife put up with it, your son implements it, and he gets divorced after 6 months. Why? Because he bashed his wife multiple times. Because you set a very bad example. Or he doesn't know how to solve issues. Every time there's an issue, he walks out of the house. Why? Because that's what my dad used to do. Every time there was an issue, instead of dealing with the issue, he walks out of the house. And so your son got used to giving your wife the cold shoulder. Something get missing 1 or 2 days. Why? That's what my dad used to do. I don't know how to deal with issues. The mother, sometimes the mother. Okay? for example, screaming at the husband, yelling at the husband in the house. If she doesn't get her way, she causes tantrums. You're setting a bad example for your daughter. When your daughter gets married, that's what she's going to think is the norm. That I need to get my way, and if I don't get my way, I cause an issue. Maybe your husband is patient enough to deal with that. But when your daughter gets older and she gets married, inshallah, Allahu Alam how her husband's going to be. Maybe her husband says, listen, if that's what you think a marriage is, go back to your parents' house. I didn't get married for my wife to scream at me, for my wife to yell at me. If she doesn't get her way, she chucks a tantrum. That's not what I do. Or maybe the mother now, okay, in front of the children, again, every time she has an issue with the husband, she leaves the house. Okay, when your daughter gets older and she gets married, that's what she's going to think is normal. Now, you can say to your child, be a good wife, be a good husband. You can say that. But children listen with their what? Ears or their eyes? Children listen with their eyes. You can talk to them all day, but it's not going to mean anything if they see something different. If your child sees you do something wrong, that's what they're going to learn from. That's what's going to be instilled. So it's going to be automatic when they're in that situation. That's what's going to come out, that nature. So be very careful as parents not to set your children up for failure by being bad role models of what a good husband and wife should be like from now. And no one, doesn't matter who it is, no one wants their child to be treated bad. No one. You don't want your daughter to be treated bad in the future, nor do you want your son to be treated bad in the future. A person will say, let all the adab be on me and nothing happens to my children. So if you find that your nafs, it's very hard for you to change, at least take some steps for their benefit. You would say, if you see your child in pain, say, I'm willing to take on all of that pain for the sake of my children, so that they don't get hurt. Okay, put yourself, break your nafs a little bit now to be a better husband or a better wife, even if you say it's not my nature, or she says it's not my nature, or this is how Allah created me. No, don't use that as an excuse. That's an excuse of weakness. Do what you can to show that good example so that they don't have to go through those problems in the future. Number 2, not raising children to be ready for marriage. This is another thing about parents. As parents, we are not, in today's day and age, raising our children to be ready for marriage. A boy, by the time he's 18 years old, the only thing he knows is how to get extra things on Call of Duty. That's the only thing he knows. The only thing he knows is what the new episode is on Netflix, and who's in love with who, and who killed who, and where they're going. Even worse than that are the ones addicted to anime. Allah yahdikum. Cartoon Network wasn't enough for you when you were young, so now it's Japanese characters. And this is what he's addicted on. You see him up at 2 o'clock in the morning, Tabarakallah praying Qiyam al-Layl? No. He's been watching 5 series of anime. Allah yahdi. Okay? There's no skills to be a man. You're 18 years old. 18, 19, 20 years old. You should be, Tabarakallah, almost a grandfather. But he's got no idea how to be a man. He doesn't know mas'uliyah. Some boys, wallah, they have their P's, and the first time they go to fill up their car, they get confused. This is embarrassing. Some boys, if their tire pops, they need to call the NRMA. This is embarrassing. Some women, if you ask them to cook anything more than eggs, they start to have anxiety attacks. If you told them, okay, the house needs to be cleaned, no, I want to sleep in until 2 o'clock. Why? You're 18, 19, 20 years old. You should be able to run your own household now. But they never got used to it. What was the focus? Okay, your education, no problem. Your work, no problem. But this is one aspect of them and them being an adult. What about the other aspects? If we don't raise our boys to be men and our daughters to be women, who's going to raise them? In the previous generation's time, the society could raise. In the olden times, our grandparents, not even our parents' generation, half in our parents' generation, even our grandparents, you could leave your son or your daughter out on the street and they'll grow up men and women. Why? Because the society used to raise children. They would have to walk a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. They have to sit a certain way, eat a certain way, discuss and talk with others a certain way. If they done something wrong in the street, someone else will pull them up, even if they're strangers. Now, no one deals with anyone. The sheikh is too scared to give a da'wah to anyone. Sheikh, that offends me and that upsets me and they understood wrong and sorry I'm not coming and you're cancelled and all that show. It's a big problem. It's a big issue. No one wants to talk to anyone. Then on top of that, no one interacts with anyone. So the child is raised in the house 24/7. What's raising them? The phones, the TV, the iPad, the computer, or school. And none of them are raising men or women. It's unfortunately adding to the problem. They live in their little bubble and it causes massive issues, character issues and emotional issues. So when it comes time, this man, he actually wants to get married. He's not ready for marriage. He doesn't know what it means to be a husband. He doesn't know what it means to be put through a bit of adversity. He doesn't know what it means to be responsible. How, well, it kills me. How can a husband think, how can a man, okay, how can a man think that it's possible for me to go and ask for a girl's hand in marriage and I don't work? How? Unless, tabarakallah, you're a millionaire with, tabarakallah, some sort of a big income stream or mashallah, you inherited a lot, whatever it is. How do you think it's appropriate for you to go and ask for a girl's hand and you don't have a job? Sheikh, I want to go ask for a girl's hand, but her father said no. I want to go and remove the wilayah, remove the guardianship from the father. Do you know anyone that does that? Why did the father say no? Oh, he doesn't have good reasons. What's the reason? He said, because I don't work. 100% he's got right. How he doesn't, what? How do you marry your daughter to someone who's living on Tintalim? How? Sheikh, Allah provided. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. إذا خطب إليكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه. If a person comes to ask for someone's hand, and you're happy with his deen and his akhlaq, part of his akhlaq is work ethic. How do I marry my daughter to someone that I'm scared he can't provide for her? I'm scared he's not going to be looked after. I'm scared he may force my daughter to go and wallah, it happens. I'm scared he's going to force my daughter to go and work for him to sit at home and get provided for. This is a big issue. But a lot of I'm not talking about the ones that can't work for the excuse. No. We're talking about ones that sit at home for no reason. He doesn't want to work because he doesn't want to work, not because of another issue. Okay, this young man, he wants to get married. There's no way he's going to get married. Or there's no one in their right mind that has a good daughter that's going to marry their daughter to him. But because he was never taught as a young man that you need to work for what you want, you as a parent need to make sure that you are teaching your child that, you are teaching your child that. Your child, for example, on the holidays, now the holidays are coming up, your child's old enough, get him to go work, let him get work experience. Let him go do something. I've met so many young men who are in uni, they're doing their uni course, sometimes in their 3rd or 4th year of their degree, and they're studying something, and say, inshallah, you want to get a job in that? He says, oh, well, I'm still not sure. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You're in your 3rd year of your uni degree, or your 4th year of your uni degree, and you don't know what you want to do in your life yet? How? Some of them, they switch to every year, they're switching different degree. I didn't like it, I didn't like that, I didn't like that. Actually, what do you want to do in your life? How's that person going to get married? It's very indecisive. How are you going to get married? Marriage has a lot of issues. Marriage has a lot of problems, which are, it's normal, it's life. How do you expect to be able to be patient and persevere if you never grew up, you never met a man from a young age? So if you're a parent, put your child through that adversity. Don't be a parent that corrupts their child. Every time the child says, you give them what they want. Because in marriage, that's not how marriage works. Your child, you baby them all the way until they're out and they expect them to get married. No. Your daughter, teach her, what does it require for you to be a wife? Mostly, forget this statement, Allah yahdihum, these mashaykh and du'at that constantly promote, it's not an obligation for the wife to cook and clean. Who said it's not an obligation for the wife to cook and clean? Bring the entire words of the ulama. Yeah, 100%. If you're in a culture where it's not the norm for the women to cook and clean, then 100% it's not an obligation for the women to cook and clean. Example, if you live in a lofty society where they have servants and maids, and the servant and maid cooks and cleans, 100% in that society, because it's the cultural norm that the wife doesn't cook and clean in those societies, 100%. If you live in a time, or a scholar lives in a time where everyone has slaves, and the slaves cook and clean, 100% it's correct. The wife doesn't need to cook and clean. Why? Puts upon the slave. Do you live in that time? No. وَالْعَادَاتْ مُحَكَّمَةً. The norms are enforced. If the Sharia didn't specify to do or not to do. It gets back to what? The culture. So for you to say, oh no, these are cultural things. Of course they're cultural things. Have you never ever studied Qawaid Fiqhiyya? The ABCs of Deen. ABCs. This is not wallah a high level of Deen where only if you've memorized, the books of Hadith you understand it. This is not where you need to go to the desert of Mauritania to get this sacred knowledge. These are the basics of knowledge. Regis Park with Torah. I said that specifically for you. It's not an obligation. Abadan. If culturally that's the understanding, of course it's an obligation. Yani now, for example, if you speak to a Lebanese guy, مثلا, and he wants to get married, and tell him, okay, you're going to get married, but your wife is not going to cook and clean. And if she feels like it, khair wa barakah, but if she doesn't, it's not an issue. And if the house is upside down, it's not an obligation. Okay, I'll stay at my mom's house. Yani shuf here. Every week, yani ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, I'll have a shower, that's it, not finished. But to go and get married and rent a house and look after my wife, and the house doesn't get, I don't cook or clean. I won't get married. There's no point for me to get married. Khalas, don't worry about marriage. Why would the man get married for all of that? He wouldn't do it. So when you're raising your daughters, don't corrupt them with this corruption. Don't instill the wrong things. Yes, of course, culturally, if the woman, the norm is to cook and clean, of course she has to cook and clean as an obligation towards her husband. And if she's used to never cooking or cleaning, then of course it could cause issues for them in the future. If she's used to whenever she wants, she sleeps in until 2 p.m., 3 p.m. And when she's with her husband, wake up. Is she okay? Call her dad. Does she have issues? I don't know, she had a stroke, she had a heart attack, she's in a coma, and she's gone. Habibti, let's go. The house is dirty, the kids are a mess, and no, she's sleeping. If this is going to cause issues later on, were you a part of those issues? That you never taught your daughter, you never raised your daughter like that? Even things like serving. I used to tell the brothers always, one of the ways, when you get to see a girl, and a lot of time culturally, the girl that you're going to marry, she'll be the one to serve things. I go like, watch how she serves. Does she know what she's doing, or like she's got no idea what she's doing? The mother has to do on her behalf. That's not before. It wasn't a good sign. Because if she didn't know how to put awi, she's not going to know how to look after you, for example, or look after your guests if they come over. So if that's what you wanted in a wife, that's a problem. But she didn't know how to do it. Talking to people, even talking to people, like the man, okay, you're raising your son, he never spoken to anyone in his life. He wants to get married, he wants to sit with the father-in-law, and the potential father-in-law, he wants to talk to the son. Oh, yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, good, alhamdulillah. What do you call mechanic and stuff? Jazakallah khair, barakallah. I want another door. Allah ma'ak. Assalamu alaikum. Allah ma'ak. Okay, if you're shy, when you become different, come back in the future, inshallah. And you have to teach your son, you have to teach your daughter how to do issues. All of that is part of it. Teaching your daughter, you can't chuck tantrums. You're emotional, no problem. But you have to learn how to control your emotions. You have to raise your children to be men and raise them to be women. And teach them how marriage is and what the roles of a husband and wife are. You have to instill that when they're young, because they're not going to get it from anywhere else. Number 3, a person knowing that he or she is not ready for marriage and they're still trying to get married. If you know that you're not ready for marriage, don't bother trying to get married. If you know you're not ready mentally, you're not ready emotionally, you're not ready financially for marriage, then don't bother with marriage. Being a person who has sexual desires is not the only reason to get married. Your sexual desires, yes, they're a big reason why people should get married. But not if you have that, that's it, that's the box ticked. If you know that you can't deal with problems, you are a very angry person, and the slightest thing you want to punch a hole through the wall, then get married. Work on your issues until you fix them, and then get married. If you know that you don't have a job, don't keep thinking, I'm going to get married. Go set yourself up, go get a job, so that inshallah you can actually open up a house. When you are ready for marriage, then go looking for marriage, inshallah. And again, if you're a young boy, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, start to build yourself up for marriage. Don't wait until you're 19 years old to set yourself up for marriage. No. From a young age, set yourself up for marriage. So that by the time you're 18, 19, 20, you're ready for marriage, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I know some young boys, every holidays they work, every weekend they work. They will go, for example, they're at school during the week, they got their homework, they got the masjid, etc. Holidays comes, they got spare time, they'll go and work. Part of the reason, so that they can save up for marriage. Here, mum, okay, I got $1,000 this week from work, as an example. I give it to my mum, save it up for me, Allah khaliq, when I get married. As opposed to boys today, he's 16 years old, he makes $500, he buys $600 Yeezys. Allah yahdi. You went $600, you spent on shoes, you only have $500, that's first and foremost. Secondly, you got bought. What are they going to benefit you in the dunya or the hereafter? Sorry to the brothers that saw Yeezys. What are they going to benefit you? Set yourself up for something that you can do in the future. On the weekends, you'll go and work, even if you make $200 or $150, whatever it is, he'll get it and you'll save it. I don't need to go out and eat every single day. I don't need to have a brand new phone. I don't need to do these things. One brother was talking, he just wants a new phone. Hey, I said, yes, but they're too expensive, the new iPhone 14. I go, I'll get you an iPhone 11, same thing, but half the price. He said, no, you can't. Why? There's no reason. He doesn't need the phone for anything in particular. He needs to get a new phone. Yeah, all right, if you don't want to pay that much, go buy the cheaper one. And that's the exact same thing. If there's a reason, different story. But things that you don't need, move away. Set yourself up for marriage. Ask your mom, ask your father, Dad, what do I need for marriage? What do you think my faults are when it comes to marriage? Ask your parents. And listen to your parents, especially your parents are good and they're understanding and they got deen and they know how to be a husband, they know how to be a wife. Ask them, what are my faults? What are faults that you see regarding marriage? And take their advice if they know what they're saying. Number 4, and this now goes back, and this now we start with the individual before marriage. Know what you're looking for. Know what you're looking for. Yani, if you're a person that you have, for example, a certain standard of beauty that you can't go below. Allahumma barik, you're a 10 out of 10, and you say, I am only attracted to bigger women. So we change it for the north. You say, I know myself, I'm only attracted to bigger women. Okay, so don't go for a size 6. Don't go for a size 6 and think, because some brothers they have this issue, and some sisters also have this issue. They think, I went for that thinking that maybe it'll grow on me later. No. If you know, that's how you are, you already know yourself. That this is what I want. Don't go for something else, and then say, oh, but I thought later on it will change. Don't expect your partner to change. And don't expect you to change towards your partner. It's very, very, very hard. Again, especially in this day and age where divorce is so easy. And the fitan are so many. So if you know you like a certain type of something, then go after that something. Or if you know, I don't want a woman that works. So why would you marry a woman that works and is planning to continue working? If you know what you want, then go after what you want. If you don't know what you want, different story. Again, that takes you to the previous point. You're not ready for marriage. But if you have an idea, okay, I'm willing to accept this or I'm willing to accept that, then, okay, go with what you're willing to accept. But to take something opposite, something that you're not attracted to, for example, or that you don't like, you hate, whatever it may be, then be very careful of going after and thinking, oh, inshallah, it will get better in the future. Or there's nothing else, so I'll compromise and I'll take that. Same thing with the sisters. Be very careful. For example, if you only like tall guys, don't go for a short guy. My apologies to short guys. Or maybe you like short guys, don't go for a tall guy. If that's what you don't like it, then don't go for it. And people think they understand the deen wrong. One of the beautiful things about knowledge is that it helps you understand the deen correctly. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he speaks about marriage and he says, before you look at deen, look for the looks. People think, Allah, if the Shaykh said that today, Allahu Akbar, Shaykh, yeah, now you know the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what kind of words are these, blah, blah. Why did he say that? Why did Imam Ahmad rahimahullah tell you go for looks first before deen?
You
تحكي مرتك ما في تسمعها.
You have to be attracted to the person before you marry him. It doesn't matter just for the.
جيد, but your person can have a look there.
So that if you do end up rejecting it for the shortcomings in deen.
Good. So if you end up rejecting her, it's based on deen, not based on her looks. And if you're attracted to the girl, then you look for her what? Her deen after that. Her deen and her akhlaq. If they're good, then you go through the marriage. But if they're bad, you say, khalas, don't worry about it. Barakallahu fiki, but it's not for me. Ma fi nasib. You get your mom to call. If you go off deen first, mashallah, she prays Qiyam al-Layl, and she fasts Mondays and Thursdays, and she's a hafiz of Quran, so you think, Allahu Akbar, her deen is 100%. You ask her about everyone says she's the most perfect woman in her akhlaq. But you go and see her and she looks like me. You say, Allah yabarik fikum, jazakumullah khairan, but yani ma fi nasib. You ended up rejecting her because of her deen or because of her looks? You rejected her because of her looks, which is not good. Because you chose her looks now over deen. Okay, which is the problem. You prioritize looks. And this is not a good thing. Okay? So, if you know you're attracted to something specific, khalas, go for that. Go for that. Or, don't accept something you're not attracted to. You don't have any attraction, don't do it, because that can really lead to major issues later on in marriage. Okay? It can really, and it will speak to, in the marriage, some of the issues, inshallah, and this is going to come up, bismillah. Number 5 is not discussing what you expect from your spouse before marriage. Make sure when you're going to get married, you and her discuss what you expect from each other. Don't let the ship sail and you want to go, for example, to New Zealand, but you take it to Japan. Why? If you want to go to New Zealand, however, you take off from here and you go to New Zealand. You start going the other way, for you to bring it all the way back around is a big, big, big headache. And usually it's too big, it actually breaks the marriage. If you don't want the woman to work, when do you say that to the woman? After 6 months of marriage, Habibti, khalas, can you stop working now? Or you say it before you even get married. As you're getting to know each other, you mention that. If you say, look, I don't mind you working, but it has to be in this environment. Say it before the marriage. I don't mind you working, but when we have children, I don't want you to work. Whatever it is, maybe you say, I don't care, go and work as much as you want. Whatever it is, say it before the marriage. How do you expect her to be with your children? Have to look, when it comes to my children, I really want us to raise our children. I don't want this business of leaving my child with her uncle, her auntie, her grandparents every second day. I don't like that. Once a week if we go out, or something once a month if we go out, maybe. But for us to leave our children, as soon as they become 2 years old, or some of them even 18 months, we put them in childcare and we go and do our own thing. Maybe you don't like that. So mention it from the beginning. So that you are both on the same page and you both have this understanding. How do you want her to be regarding your family? Look, we're a very close family. Every Sunday, for example, we get together. So, we get together and we have breakfast or we have lunch. And this is what we do. And obviously when we get married, inshallah, I expect that we're going to be part of that. Whatever it is, be like that from the beginning. If you're a wife, what do you expect from your husband? Look, I'm a person that loves I'm looking for a friendship. Okay, I need to communicate. Maybe your husband, he can't talk. He can't communicate. Many men, they're not emotional. So from the beginning, if you're looking for a person that wants to have long strolls on the beach and talk about how his day was, I've never understood these movies that lie. And I don't know any man that wants to talk about how his day was. But every movie, come back, how was your day, honey? And he tells everything to his wife. I don't know, maybe out of the million men that I know, there's maybe like 3 of them like this. Now, the majority, Habibti, please, I just got home. Give me half an hour at least. I don't want to do anything. Okay? But if you say, you know what, no, I want from my husband X, Y, Z, then discuss with your husband before. Many a time, what ends up happening, the marriage couple get into issues. And then when you say, why didn't you guys speak about this before you were married? That this is what you wanted. They always say, Wallah, we thought that they were going to change. Don't expect the person to change. The Lebanese, they have a saying, المرأة تتربى مرتين. مرة عند أبوها ومرة عن زوجها. The woman is nurtured 2 times. One at her dad's house and one at her husband's house. Maybe when they used to get married when they were 13 and 14 years old, yeah, maybe. But حبيبي, now he تجي تربيك. Doesn't work like that anymore. Maybe you can change 5 to 10%. Maybe you can change certain things about each other that are more befitting now for the marriage. Possibly, yes. But to think that they're going this way and you're going to make them do a U-turn, very, very, very rare. Very rare. I'll give you an example. This is a recent example that came up. If your husband or wife are TikTok influencers, what about you? Wallah, what about you? Okay? If your husband or wife are, or potential husband or wife are TikTok influencers, for you to think that as soon as you do the katb al-tab or the walima, that they're going to let go of all social media accounts and they're never going to go back to it in the future, don't get married, don't get to a sheikh, get to a psychologist. Because this doesn't happen. You're living in La La Land if you think that's the reality. If your husband is going to places every Friday, Saturday night, and continuing on to Sunday, tabarakallah, don't expect, oh wallah, I thought as soon as we're going to get married, it's going to be better. No. If your wife is, she thinks that she works for Victoria's Secret every night in Greenacre, don't think that, wallah, after marriage she's going to be, mashallah, she's going to wear jilbab, and she's going to wear niqab, and she's going to be so modest. What makes you think they're going to change? If they wanted to change, they would have changed before they met you. If they were going to change, they would have changed before they met you. That's the reality. But to think that, well, I'm going to get married and then later on they're going to change, don't expect that. A person should get married, they should be ready for marriage. They shouldn't expect you to change, nor should you expect them to change. Be very careful of getting married, and yes, they don't need to be 100%, but at least the usul need to be there. The usul 100% they need to be there. So if you want your wife to be a certain way, then before marriage. And if you want your husband to be a certain way, then before marriage. So I'm not discussing, this is a big issue. Especially with working children. If you want children straight away, then say to your wife, look, and by the way, I don't think having children is a good thing straight away. And in the marriage we'll talk about it, inshallah, next week. If you want children straight away, you say to your spouse, this is what I'm expecting, to have children, inshallah, straight away. And discuss. Or look, I don't want to have children, maybe she wants children straight away. And you discuss. Okay? Whatever it is, discuss. But that, kids and work are two things that lead to a lot of marriage issues because they weren't discussed before. The last one which we'll mention tonight, inshallah, Azza wa Jal, is not agreeing before the marriage on how your life and things are going to be. So before is what you expect from the other person until you come to agreement. Then about your marriage itself. What do you expect from marriage? How do you expect your marriage to be? There are a lot of people that have a very wrong understanding of what marriage is or what they expect from you. Okay, when it comes to marriage, agree on what does life in marriage look like. I don't know how it happens, but it does. Especially if you get married from different cultures. Your understanding of marriage could be one thing, their understanding could be a very another thing. For example, anyone Pakistani here? Okay, I do. You can pass. For some Pakistanis, the norm, in Afghanistan as well, no? The norm, or for a lot of them culturally, is that they live inside the house. They live inside the house of the parents, of the boy's parents. Okay? Norm in Pakistan and Afghanistan or not? Depends. In Australia, is it the norm that they live inside the house of the in-laws? No. So sometimes they get married and what they think is a norm and they want to do, how their married life is going to be, the other person says, no way, what are you talking about? No, I want my own house. So they don't agree on how the marriage is going to be from the beginning. Especially if you're getting married to different cultures. Okay? If, for example, your work is a very particular type of work, where you're always traveling, a lot of the husbands and wives, they don't agree on what the life is going to be like before. Some of the wives, they think, okay, yeah, I knew you used to travel for work, but I thought I was going to go with you. Okay? Well, sorry, that's not what I expected. Okay? Or for those that are expecting in da'wah, Okay, for example, people that their mindset is I want to get married, I want to be involved in da'wah. So for example, you want to travel, you want to go and seek knowledge overseas. So how's your marriage life going to be? Discuss, look, inshallah, my plan is to go overseas and study. Sometimes the girl says, listen, I can't go more than 3 kilometers away from my parents. And that could cause major issues. Now you have to follow your husband. These are issues that come after if you don't discuss it. So agree on what does your marriage look like. Okay, look, obviously we discuss things, but at the end of the day, there has to be one captain of the ship. We discuss it, obviously we take each other's opinion, but if, for example, I come to a conclusion as a husband, no, this is going to be like this, then I expect my wife to go along with it. Nothing at your detriment, but to go along with it. The things that are normal, okay, we discuss and then there's a decision made. You need to discuss how your marriage is. So the one before it was what you expect from your spouse towards you, and this one is how you think your marriage is going to look, how it's going to be. There's always room for flexibility later on, but these are some of the things before marriage that if they're not concrete can really cause marriage issues in the future. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, there was some benefit. And inshallah next week we'll speak about things and reasons for divorce inside the marriage itself. هذا والله أعلم. محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.